So I'm not sure if I'm going to post this or not. I said it a lot, so we'll see what happens. Um, I kind of got this urge to talk about this and to tell somebody about it. I don't know who to tell. I don't know who to share this with. Sometimes I get really sad or overwhelmed. Not, well, maybe not overwhelmed is the wrong word. I don't like crying and saying poor me. I think about this is Pride Month, by the way, and this last year I finally decided to transition. You can't tell from the voice. I'm still sound pretty masculine. I still look pretty masculine, but way back when I was like 4 years old, I remember um, there was a commercial on TV for something. It was something neon and flashy. I don't remember what the thing was for. I just remember I saw the neon and flashy and I wanted it. And I was told more than one occasion by my parents that I couldn't have it. It was for girls. But I wanted it anyways. And in my mind, I thought, well, I'm a girl sometimes. Why can't I be a girl? No, I was 4. So when you're 4, you can be Superman. You can be anything. I remember my sister one time was a chicken laid an egg in the middle of the mall once. Because, when you're 3 and 4, you do those sorts of things. So I guess it wasn't super significant, but I remember thinking at the time in my mind, I'm a girl sometimes. And then as I continued to grow up, but when I was a little child, I had tea parties and I had dolls and I made them clothes and I liked Rainbow Bright and I liked My Little Pony and there was a bunch of other little feminine things that I liked. And that was all okay because in my mind, sometimes I was a girl. I just didn't tell anybody because I didn't think anybody would understand. And I don't know. I just didn't tell anybody. But I was a girl in my mind sometimes. I was also a little boy, and I enjoyed little boy things. I enjoyed chasing frogs and jumping in mud puddles and getting dirty and bows and arrows and that sort of thing. That was great. And all my friends pretty much were girls because in the area that I lived, that's just all that there was. That was my age, was girls. Uh, there was a couple guys that were my friends that were in the area, but I didn't see them as much. Later on, I seen the one guy more, but and at school, I had no friends. I don't know why that was exactly, other than I was ADHD and dyslexic, and for me, that made me socially awkward. So I didn't have really friends at school, um, which was strange because we all lived in the same neighborhood. So at home, we would all hang out, but at school, we all went our separate ways. That always struck me as odd, but there it was. So where am I going with this? So I'm transgender, and I've always been transgender because, like I said, I remember from when I was 4, and I remember wanting to do these different things when I was little, but I just didn't tell people that I wanted to also be a girl because I didn't think they would understand, and they wouldn't have. But I could still do all the things I wanted to do mostly, but I couldn't wear makeup, I couldn't wear nail polish, and I couldn't wear dresses or do girly things with my hair. Of course, my hair was always short, and it never occurred to me that my hair could be long and I could do girly things with it. Um, but I remember watching my cousin play with my sister's hair all the time, and I remember I liked that, watching her do it. Not that I wanted to do it. I just something about watching her do it that I liked. Um, and my sister seemed to like it. She's 3 years younger than I am, so but close enough that I could play with her toys, and we could watch girl shows for her. I also like Gem and the Holograms, and there was some other chick shows that I liked. Shira, I liked. Um, Barbie, I wasn't into Barbie at all. I could have cared less about Barbie, but My Little Pony was pretty cool. Um, But I couldn't justify watching that unless my sister was there. So that was useful, I guess. Somewhere along the line, though, I did decide um, to be a little boy and just stay a boy because that would be easier. And I can't remember when I decided that, but probably around 8 or 9, maybe 9. Um, and then I remember I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I was a little kid in the 90s and I was a teenager, or in the 80s rather, and I was a teenager in the 90s. Um, I remember my mother telling me that being gay was wrong and that it was bad and that we didn't do that. And I remember her talking a little bit about the people at the music store and that some of the men there wore dresses and that she didn't want me hanging around them. I didn't know which men those were or which women those were. I didn't really notice, to be honest with you. But I just knew they hung out at the music store. And that's why I wasn't allowed to hang out there, which was funny because I was allowed to go there for music lessons. But anyway, that was what it was, right? I was taught what I was taught. Then I go on to school, and there was always a lot of shame in my life for existing and being who I was. Um, Elementary school and high school were just torture for me, psychologically speaking. Sometimes people were nice to me, but so often they just hated me for existing. So I couldn't tell anybody that I had feminine thoughts, and I couldn't tell anybody that I was sometimes attracted to guys. Um, we didn't have the language for it back then. Today, I'm a non-binary pansexual. That's you hear about that grid where there's 54 different orientations and genders and whatever. Well, that's where I fit on that grid. Non-binary pansexual. But we didn't have the language for that at the time. So either you were gay or you weren't, and it wasn't safe to be gay. And it was dangerous to be gay anyway, even aside from the social stigma, because AIDS was a big thing back then. I mean, AIDS is still a thing now, but it was huge back then. And as far as the world was concerned, AIDS was the gay disease. So you don't want AIDS, and you don't want to be that, and you don't want to be ostracized. And I had so much trouble making friends anyway. Like, we didn't have gay straight alliances. Okay, we did have drama club, which I joined for a little while, the 1 year, but I don't. I'm not aware of anybody in drama club who was gay. I'm sure that they were there, but I don't know who they were. Um, you're probably noticing in the editing, if I've uploaded this, that I keep pausing this and then coming back to it. I lose my train of thought. It's part of the ADHD, and I don't want to just like sit there in a stupor or ramble too much. I guess my point is that I always felt shame for being me, and I was never safe to tell people who and what I was. So I never did. And then when I was 15, I met a girl, and she thought I was cute, and I thought she was cute. And next thing you know, she got pregnant. And then, but I didn't run away. Many people encouraged me to. And I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it didn't end well because uh, the relationship didn't last. I, I could blame her for things, or I could say I did things, and all that's true. But bottom line is, we were 16 when my daughter was born. My daughter's still around today, and I'm very glad that I have my daughter today. But nonetheless, that kind of took all my focus dealing with that. So I didn't try to address my issues at that time of gender and orientation. I did like girls. I still like girls. Um, so that worked out well, kind of. And it was easier to hide behind the facade that I'm just a straight white male. That was the easiest thing to do. So I did it. I did have same-sex encounters later in life, and I didn't really have a steady boyfriend or anything. Never tried to get one of those. Just this was before Tinder and stuff existed, but we still figured out the internet and managed to meet people, and that was what it was. But again, I didn't really know, like like I said, the language for it wasn't really there at the time, and the understanding wasn't really there at the time. And I was 20 something then, and so life carries on, and I get divorced. I got married and then divorced from my daughter's mother. Um, I got married to another girl. Just kind of went from one to the other, and at no point in time did I ever really address my gender or my orientation issues. But I also didn't really know that I had to. I just thought that they were like quirks or kinks, and I thought they would come and go, and I thought I could just ignore them and that life would be fine. Once I met the new girl, who's my wife today, shortly after that I got involved with a religion, and that's been a good thing mostly for me in terms of character building and making me strive to do better in life and to be a better person in life. But of course, most religions, and the one I got involved with especially, does not condone being transgender or same-sex attractions, and their solution is just to repent and pray and carry on. I tried that for a very long time. Now, I found this religion when I was like 23, 22, somewhere in there. But I became seriously involved. But all the positive aspects of life that you would want is what I was taking from this. So treat others fairly and show kindness and do service and love your neighbor. The kind of things that you don't really need religion to teach you, but it did teach you that, and I was doing those things, and I was happy doing that. So I don't regret that exactly, but it did stifle this me because I couldn't ever explore this part of me. And they told me at the time, because I asked them a little bit about it, and I didn't know. See, that's the point to this ramble. I didn't know. I knew, like I said, when I was 4 and up till I was 10ish or so, that I was a girl sometimes in my mind. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know that meant I was transgender. And then 20s and right up till I was 30, sometimes I would have all these different crazy fantasies about being this sexy maiden doing all these weird and wonderful things. And they would come and they would go, the fantasies. But I just thought they were fantasies. But I did wonder why they were there. And that was what I Googled one day. So up until I was 30, I would have these fantasies. And sometimes they were sexual in nature, but sometimes not. And even then, like, I just wondered, why am I thinking this? Why is that, like, suddenly a good thought to me to go put on high heels and blush? Like, why would I want to go do that? I never did it up till I was 30, but I would think about doing it. And it would seem like a great idea at the time. And then, like, later, like, this effing crazy. Why would I want to do that? That's stupid. I didn't know. And that's what I have to say, I guess, is that I didn't know until I was 30. And then when I was 30 and I did know, I didn't believe it. I mean, doesn't that seem crazy to you? It sure seemed crazy to me. I mean, I'm reading this stuff online, and the information 10 years ago, or 11 years ago now, I guess, wasn't even as good as it is now. Like when I Googled it, and I Googled these thoughts or whatever, I got two responses. Either number one, I was transgender, or number two, I was a cross-dresser. And I thought, well, I don't want to be a woman. Maybe I just want to wear high heels once in a while. I don't know. But the thoughts are always there, and they keep coming back, and they don't go away. Or they do go away, but then they come back again. So I didn't know what to do. I knew what the church answer was. God doesn't want you to do this. And if you have these thoughts, that's okay. You just repent and pray and move on. But I thought, well, why are they there? What does it mean? And when they are there, I like them, those thoughts. I don't hate who I am. But when they go away, I wonder why they were there in the first place. And like, is it real? And should I be making decisions based on something that's a temporary thing that's not going to last? And if it's just this fantasy, like, why am I sacrificing all of my life for a fling, for something that's not real? And so I just didn't know. I'm 30 years old, and I don't know that I'm transgender. And as I look back, and I'm going through my Facebook feeds now, and I'll see this guy or that guy, and I'm like, oh yeah, that guy, I dated his daughter once. Wonder how he feels about my being transgender. And I'm a little bit apologetic in my thought process. And I'm going, I want to apologize to people. I'm sorry, I just didn't know I was transgender. But of course, I shouldn't be apologetic. I don't have to be ashamed of the fact that I've always been transgender and just didn't know that's what it was. And now that I know today that I am transgender, now so much of it makes sense and I can understand it better. I wish I had known when I was a teenager. I wish I had known when I was 6 what that meant. I would have made different choices. And people around me would have made different choices, because if they wanted to be around me or not, they would have chosen that, either knowing me as who I presented, which I don't know what that would have been, or they would have seen me transition. They would have known what I was to begin with and made a decision based on that. I don't like lying to people, and I don't like lying to myself. And it upsets me that I didn't have a supportive environment. Now, my parents loved me and they treated me well. They knew I had lots of social problems and they didn't know how to help me with them. They often blamed me for them. I remember that. I remember I would get a lot of, well, did you do this? Well, did you do that? Well, didn't you see that kid coming who was going to break your bike? Didn't you know to get away from him? I got that from my parents a lot. From both of them. They both did that to me. But that said, they did love me, and they did, give me hugs and took me fishing and tried to help me get through life as best they knew how. They weren't mean to me really or anything. They just didn't understand why I never fit in, and they oftentimes blame me for not fitting in. What else are they gonna blame? I was the only one there, I guess. Anyway, I felt shame then for being different, and I feel shame now for not coming out back then, because I feel like I was lying to people. I would really like the shame to stop. I hate the shame.